Live from London, this is BBC News. I'm Martine Croxall.
Come on, Scotland!
Scotland qualify for the Men's World Cup finals for the first time in 28 years after a dramatic victory at Hampden Park.
The Tartan Army is going to the World Cup. As they say, no Scotland, no party.
Victims welcome the US lawmakers' vote that will see all documents into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein being released.
And I'm Sally Bundock in business. Is UK inflation not so sticky? Economists predict rising prices slowed in October. We get the number in the next few minutes.
Kiss me quick. We'll hear how the animal kingdom's been smooching for more than 21 million years. Hello and welcome. In September it was stuck at 3.8%, the same level as seen in July and August. We're talking about the UK inflation rate, but the new figures show the rate has now dipped very slightly to 3.6%. Let's talk about that with my colleague, our business presenter this morning, Sally Bundock. So it was predicted to go down a tad.
It was, not as much though. It's not gone down as much as most economists believed it would.
Sally, for the moment, thank you. A new generation of Scotland football fans will see their country at a Men's World Cup for the first time. It's been 28 years since they last played in the competition and they qualified in some style, beating Denmark 4-2 in a nail-biting match at Hampden Park. Our sports correspondent Andy Swiss was there. Still to come, Kiss Me Quick. We'll hear how the animal kingdom's been smooching for more than 21 million years. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. There are warnings that the risks surrounding Russia's shadow fleet are growing. Alongside security fears, maritime authorities are reporting a sharp spike in tankers sailing without a valid flag. Seaborne oil exports continue to generate billions for Russia as it wages war in Ukraine, despite the enactment of the Russian crude oil price cap, which was sanctioned by the United States in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia's shadow fleet is a clandestine network of hundreds of vessels used to evade policing. Our Europe correspondent Jessica Parker reports from the Baltic Sea. Business Today with Sally coming up in the first few minutes, but anyone who kisses is following in a long line, a long tradition.
Fantastic. I love that story. Kiss me quick. Chimpanzees have been doing it for millions of years.
And we're not going to stop any time soon.
No.
Right, inflation.
Let's keep the passion in business. We've got inflation figures that have literally, just come out. At the top of the hour, we had the news that inflation in the UK is 3.6%. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that ugly? I'll be grilling a top economist about that shortly in Business Today.
Yeah, and it was a bit higher than a lot of people had predicted.
It was, but it's coming down.
It's coming down, and the Chancellor has said that she's pleased, and she's got a budget next week. Sally, here in a minute with the business first. Check on the BBC weather.
Now on BBC News, the latest business news from across the globe. Business Today.
Easing price pressures. UK inflation falls to 3.6% in October, but it is higher than some were expecting. Will it give the Bank of England enough leeway to cut interest rates next month? The fear factor is back. Tech stocks slide across the globe as investors ask, has investment in AI gone too far? Meta breathes a huge sigh of relief as a US judge rules the social media giant isn't a monopoly and won't have to spin off Instagram or WhatsApp. And it's International Men's Day. We take a look at the advertising industry. Is it appealing to men and boys in the 21st century, and has it got it right? Good to have you with us. This is Business Today in London. I'm Sally Bundock. So we are looking at the cost of living because the rate prices are going up in the UK is slowing down, and it gives some breathing space to the Chancellor of the Exchequer as she prepares for her crucial budget next week, and potentially for the Bank of England, which decides next month whether to cut the cost of borrowing again. Victoria Scholar and Dan Ives there, still to come. It is International Men's Day. We're going to take a look at how the advertising industry is appealing to men and boys in the 21st century. Have they got it right? Around the world and across the UK, you're with BBC News. Now, there was some good news for Meta. It won the legal case that threatened to break it apart. A federal judge said the owner of Facebook did not break antitrust laws when it bought Instagram and WhatsApp, deals that help cement its dominance in social media. With more, here's our North America business correspondent, Michelle Fleury. Yeah, that was a really interesting conversation there on International Men's Day. Don't forget, you can get more business and economic news on the website and the BBC News app. And if you can't live without it, I'll be back with more business in 40 minutes. That's actually not really true. I'll be back at the top of the hour, actually. But now Martine is here with all the sport. And I'm guessing you're leading on Scotland.
Absolutely. Tartan everywhere. Sally, thank you very much. Good morning. If you've just joined us, it's at 9 minutes to 8. And as Sally said, we're going to check on the sport because what a night it was at Hampden Park in a game that went backwards and forwards. It was Scotland who came out on top, beating Denmark 4-2 to win their ticket to the USA, Canada and Mexico. Andy Swiss reports. I'll have all the headlines at 8 o'clock. First, let's check on the BBC weather. Live from London, this is BBC News. I'm Martine Croxall. UK inflation falls for the first time since March, but food prices are up. The Chancellor says next week's budget will help.
Food prices fell last month and they have risen this month, but I do recognise that there's more that we need to do to tackle the cost of living challenges.
I'm Sally Bundock. We'll have a reaction to that inflation figure and we'll hear from a top economist. The drop is slightly less than economists had expected and was driven by energy prices rising at a slower pace.
Scotland qualified for the Men's World Cup finals for the first time in 28 years after a dramatic victory at Hampden Park. Victims welcome the US lawmakers' vote that will see all documents into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein being released. Free after 38 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. We hear from Peter Sullivan about one of the longest running miscarriages of justice in UK history. And coming up, Kiss Me Quick. We'll hear how the animal kingdom's been smooching for more than 21 million years. Hello and welcome. New figures show that UK inflation has dropped for the first time in 5 months. The figures show a slight dip to 3.6% in October. That's down from the September figure where inflation stood at 3.8%, having stayed at that rate through July and August. Henry Zeffman, still to come. Kiss Me Quick. We'll hear how the animal kingdom has been smooching for more than 21 million years. Someone was making a kissing sound in my ear. Can't think who it was. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. A man freed after being jailed for 38 years in one of the UK's longest miscarriages of justice has told the BBC he was bullied into falsely confessing to the murder of 21-year-old Diane Sindel. Peter Sullivan was speaking in his first interview since his release 6 months ago. He was cleared after new DNA evidence proved he wasn't the killer. Phil McCann reports. More in a moment on the inflation rate in the UK dropping to 3.6%. First, let's get a check on the BBC weather. This is BBC News, the headlines. UK inflation falls for the first time since March, but food prices are up. The Chancellor says next week's budget will help. Scotland qualify for the Men's Football World Cup finals for the first time in 28 years after a dramatic victory at Hampden Park. A US judge rules the social media group Meta isn't a monopoly and won't have to spin off Instagram or WhatsApp. The widow of the murdered Saudi critic Jamal Khashoggi says she disagrees with President Trump after he defends the Saudi crown prince over Khashoggi's killing. Warnings of the risks of Russia's shadow fleet as authorities report a sharp spike in tankers sailing with a valid flag. And Sally is here with the business. I was supposed to pass this over under the sting, but forgot. Sally, all yours.
It's all right, I've got it. That's all I need. Thank you, Martine.
The power.
Let's bring you more on the inflation figures. You've just been hearing all about that. So the cost of living is coming down. The rate prices are rising is slowing in the UK, and it gives some breathing space to the Chancellor as she prepares for her crucial budget next week and potentially. Nick Dutnall there, who was talking about the ad industry in particular. It was really interesting conversation, and I think it's great there's an International Men's Day. I know often when it's International Women's Day you get that kind of counter argument, what about the men, why do we need to have a special day? I think yes, it's important.
And we've been running it for years. It's been going for years, hasn't it?
It has.
But also, who wants to be constrained by these sort of old-fashioned, narrow ideas of what it is to be a man or a woman, for that matter?
Yeah, and I think in particular this year, it's something that has been discussed an awful lot, partly because of that drama, adolescence, which I watch closely. I've got teenage boys. It was something that I was really intrigued about and interested in. But the other thing that's super important about this day is we've mentioned obviously the business sector. That's my focus in business today. But the health issues in particular, and the really important point of when you hit an age, you must go and get your prostate checks and get your details and all that kind of stuff, and prevention, something that our former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is really hot on at the moment and talking about, and all these other issues are really important as well.
Yeah, they are. It provokes a good conversation. Sally, thank you very much. President Trump has defended the Saudi crown prince over the killing of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the kingdom's Istanbul consulate 7 years ago. Mr. Trump insisted that Mohammed bin Salman knew nothing about the killing, contradicting US intelligence findings. Our State Department correspondent Tom Bateman reports. You can watch the full BBC Global Women interview with Arden Cho on the BBC iPlayer or here on BBC News this weekend. Now, throughout the morning, we've been talking about how Scotland are through to the Football World Cup finals, the men, that is, for the first time in 28 years after beating Denmark 4-2 at Hampden Park last night. While Scotland weren't the only nation to make history in qualifying for the World Cup final. These were the scenes in Kingston, where Curaçao created World Cup history as well, with a population of just over 150,000. They are the country that's become the smallest nation ever to qualify. They played out a goalless draw with Jamaica, but it was enough to top the group and claim one of the 3 automatic qualifying places from the CONCACAF region. Among the other nations from the region, Haiti also booked their return to the tournament for the first time in 52 years, along with Panama. Congratulations to all of them. Kasia Madeira is with you next. Bye for now.
Hello there. It may turn a little milder over the weekend.